Welcome to this oral history interview, part of the developing series of interviews focusing on live music venues and experiences on Route 66, centered around Springfield and Greene County, Missouri, and Lebanon and Pulaski County, Missouri. This series is supported in part by a grant from the Route 66 Corridor Preservation Program of the National Park Service. My name is Craig Amason with Missouri State University Libraries. Today's date is April 20th, 2023, and our special guest today is Christina Lentz. Am I pronouncing that correct?
You very good.
Good. She is the
Better
widow
than most.
of Ed Lentz, who passed away in 2004, I believe.
Correct.
She went to work for him in 1969 when he had an International Harvester dealership.
He
Is
did.
that correct?
He did.
And they were married in 1975.
Correct.
Mr. Lentz also operated the Cactus Club on Route 66, just inside Laclede County, in the mid-1970s. And Ms. Lentz, thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this project and allowing us to come here to talk with you in the rain today. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
My first question is, were you born in this area?
I lived in Pulaski County all my life,
Okay.
with the exception that little bit just across the.
Right.
I was born in Crocker.
Okay.
Crocker's where I grew up.
Okay. This is, some of these questions you may come out of left field, and you may not have any opinion on them or have any knowledge of them, but just want to ask them anyway. Do you have any idea what the live music scene was like in this area, say before 1985? Do you remember hearing live music in places around here?
It was other places. They had it in Lebanon, and Waynesville, St. Robert also had some that was live music. But our area, it was only the one place.
Mm-hmm. Were most of the people playing there local musicians and singers?
Do you want a name?
Sure.
Larry Jemes, Jemes, and I understand he's still with us or alive. He would be about 85 or 6 now. I think he lives, I started to say the other side of Lebanon, between Lebanon and Phillipsburg probably. You probably could find him if you need to. As far as his mentality, I don't know. I'm assuming he's all right and would remember things. But he was there the biggest part of the time. There were other people that were there just before, but I could not give you a name on them. They just weren't there very long, and that's been a little while. That's been 50 years.
Well, of course. Do you remember what kind of music they were playing?
Biggest part was more country music, of course, in this area. He pretty well, I would say more that than anything. I remember that the first thing, before he ever started, he told Ed, he said, "I will not play Wipeout." I'm not, he did. You know Wipeout, I'm assuming.
Yes, I do, yes.
Yes, but before he ever started, he said, "I will not play my Wipeout." But he would play other requests,
I guess that means Wipeout was just so popular, and people.
It was pretty popular at that
requested.
time.
That's
I didn't care for it myself, and it's pretty busy.
Yeah, it's not really country. Yeah, that's pretty.
It's pretty,
right.
it's pretty, but
Intense,
for
yeah.
some reason he would do other things. Now I don't know that he stopped at anything else. Of course, there could have been times there was something he didn't know, but he would take requests.
What instrument did he play?
I guess it was a big guitar. It was that type thing. I'm not good on instruments myself.
Did they have like whole bands, or was it just like a solo act most of the
No,
time?
there was more than, his wife was in it, and then I think two other, there's 4 or 5 of them probably.
And did they play in multiple locations around the area?
I know his cousin said that he has played at churches. Don't quote that, but I can't see him playing at churches. But he has, and before he was at our place, let's see, how old would he? That was 73. he was probably getting close to 40 by then.
Okay.
And he probably had been around, but I don't know where, and I can't tell you how Ed got hold of him.
Okay.
He took care of the hiring and the firing
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. I just hired one person over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It was justified. But that was his. That
Sure.
was his territory.
Sure. So I believe it was it 1973 or 1974 when Ed Lentz opened the Cactus Club?
The Cactus Club opened in May of 1974.
74.
And it went through 1976.
Okay, and it was converted from a service station garage, is that correct?
It was tall, because he put the tall tractor trailers in there
Okay.
and had a garage on both ends,
Okay,
And of course he closed those and dropped the ceiling.
mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't drop it very much. He put in air things to try to take the smoke out, because at that time there was a lot of smoke.
Sure.
Can't think what they were called, but he had a couple of those in there, and still it'd be too smoky.
Interesting. So to vent the smoke out, right.
Mm-hmm.
That was near the crossroads of Route 66 and Old Highway 133, is that correct? Yeah.
Route 66, it wasn't interstate yet.
Right, it was the old 66.
It was Route 66,
Right.
and at the junction of 133,
Okay.
yes.
And you all hosted live music there from what we read, it was like Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights.
Correct.
Is
Wednesday,
that correct?
Friday, and Saturday.
Is that every week?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Different bands or just a house band? Or
It was Larry James, basically.
most of the time he was the one who was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And mostly country music there
The biggest
too.
part.
Yeah, for the most part. What about the audience, the people that came? Were they mostly people from around here, or were they people traveling through, or a combination of both?
We had a lot from Lebanon that
Mhm.
came down. We had people from Crocker. We had people from Waynesville, of course, Richland. We had to fight the the young ones.
The underage ones?
Yeah, they always wanted in, but we had somebody on the door that with a door
Stamp for the
fee
what?
and a stamp.
So there was a cover charge.
Cover charge.
And what was the drinking age then?
Oh, it was 21.
21. Okay, so nobody under 21.
I have pulled some beer from teenagers.
Yeah. So checking IDs at the door and taking the cover charge.
They would check IDs, and once in a while, I can remember one, because I grew up in Crocker, and there was a young lady that looked older than she was, and they didn't card her. And I knew who she was, and I said, Ed, I said, she's not 21. Oh yeah, she's 21. I said, no, she's not. She's not graduated yet. But she did, she looked kind of rough. No names, of course,
Yeah.
But there's been times that, guys that's 22 and all this, they're old enough, but they'll have a girlfriend that's 20 or less,
Right.
and they want to take her with them.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work because they're going to, that girlfriend, as a rule, is going to try. Well, we had draft beer, and that made it easier. For some reason, they would have a whole table of draft beer, and you'd have to watch because those young ones would be drinking. I know one time I caught them at it, and I took their beer away from. I just picked it up, all of it. They had a pitcher and whatever. He said, "You're not going to take our beer, are you?" And I said, "Yes, I am. You can lose your license,
Sure.
Yeah.
and just things like that. It was interesting, but you know, he owned the restaurant for all those years, and I have to say that there were more headaches in that bar than there were running the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
You know, trying to keep help and
Would people get rowdy from
Yeah.
time to time?
and two, we even before he had a bar, we had the after drinking crowd because he was open all the time, and he would have to be there like 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 or whatever for people that had got drunk somewhere else, and then they want to eat.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you-
the restaurant.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you still had to handle the drinkers even if they weren't buying the drinks from you. And so then, of course, when they were buying the drinks from you, there were more of them, but not all together. And you still, you had to always be there till about 3 o'clock or so.
Wow. And what was the restaurant open 7 days a week, or?
It never closed except 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve and reopened at 6 o'clock the day after Christmas.
I've read that.
The whole
before, that's why
place.
I asked that question. Yeah.
Yes, and it says in the paper that he had to buy a new key every year. And somebody said, well, why? Well, we didn't explain it. The thing of it is, a year later, he couldn't never find the key. And he'd have to go out. Yes, he'd have to go out and buy a new key.
That's wonderful. How late did the Cactus Club stay open?
Well, the law said 1:30, I think it was.
1:30. And was it open 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week?
It was open every day except Sunday.
Well, really? Even Monday nights?
They were slower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't do much then. But it was there, yes.
Did you open up like at happy hour, the Cactus Club?
I don't think we ever called anything happy hour.
What time did you open up?
Well, we were already around because of other reasons. I think probably 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
I know people started drinking awful early.
Yeah. Wow.
I can remember that.
Wow. Yeah.
There were some locals that would be there seemed like for breakfast, you know. They would be there early.
When did the music typically start?
Let's see. It played till 1 or 1:30. I think it stayed at, was it 9 or 8? It was either 9 or 8. You know, I
Okay.
can't tell you. It was quite a while.
Yeah, that would be quite a while.
They
yeah.
quit before 1 o'clock.
Mhm.
I think they quit. I think 1:30 was the law. And you had to run them out then, you know.
Right, so you probably stop the music a little earlier. Yeah.
Yes, they stopped the music before. And they're still not ready to go.
Of course not. Yeah, especially on the weekends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, to have live music three nights out of the week.
It was.
That was something. Did you ever get travelers coming through?
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
At the Cactus Club?
We had, truck drivers, of course, stopped a lot because it was a truck stop.
Sure.
And some of them, well, even during the day, sometimes they'd stop and have 2 or 3 beers, you know.
Right.
And some of them would be there at night, yeah. And we had other people traveling through. They might stop and get gas and then, or eat and then go ahead and stop and have a couple drinks or whatever, but not excessive as rule. And there were some there in the evening, but not a lot going through that stayed.
Remember ever talking to any of these people from out
Yeah.
of town that was traveling through?
Yeah, there were some nice people.
Do you have any memories of anybody stand out at all?
I don't have any names. We had a lot of, actually there were a lot of truck drivers that were regular that I knew. There were some nice truck drivers that I knew, but they usually didn't do a lot of drinking, you know.
But they would stop regularly.
But they would, yes. They mostly eat or fuel up. But we had, I was born in the area, and I didn't travel until after I had married Ed, to speak of. And one day, some guy from off somewhere, he said, "It sure is pretty here in Missouri. It's a beautiful state." And I thought, "It is?" Yeah. Well, after I got to traveling some, it is.
Yes.
It is a
Yeah.
pretty state.
Sure.
You know, it's good looking. And I met a lot of interesting people that. And I was also told by people that said people are so friendly. And after I got acquainted with New York and a few places like that, I thought, yeah, they are more friendly than a lot of places. You know, they'll look at you like, "Who
Right.
are you? I mean,
Yeah.
what do you want?" You
Right,
know?
right.
And I had heard that more than once, that people were very friendly. And we had one person that helped convert the place over and then helped work. And he was very talkative, very friendly person. He has passed away also. And he would just talk to anybody. You know, he was one of those that, so they like that good personality.
Sure.
You know, people want to stop for a while and they talk and visit, and they may come back next time because people were friendly. But they didn't put on shows. It's just they were that way.
Do you think it helped to have the music there to bring in people?
Oh yeah.
That was
Oh
a draw.
yeah.
That was a draw.
I think he had 50 tables, 4 chairs, 200.
Wow.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
200.
people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to think how many at the bar. He had quite a few at the bar also, and it was full. Not every time, but it was full a lot.
It was a full bar. Were you serving
well.
liquor as well, or?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think at first he just had a beer license. Now, I'm not real, don't quote me on that. But he served food, so he could serve the drinks, you know,
Right.
if you have enough. I think maybe at first it was just beer, but not very long. But if you serve so much in food, you can have alcohol at that 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Were they serving food in the Cactus Club too?
Well, people would order pizza, biggest part, or a sandwich, but there was a door that you could go from the Cactus Club into the restaurant. And there was they made a hole behind the bar that they would shove the dirty glasses
Oh.
through
Right,
to
right. To the kitchen.
they cleaned the dishes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But some people would go up, and a lot of them would eat and then come in for the music. And but they would order you a pizza, or matter of fact, I made some pizzas for people,
Yeah, so they could eat in the Cactus Club if they wanted to.
but they didn't a lot.
Can you describe the inside of the Cactus Club? What it looked like? Do you remember?
It was one big 4-sided building, 4 walls, I guess you'd say. After he closed off the where the garage doors were, there was one. Here it is. You come in this door. Restaurants were over here. Pool table, 2 pool tables over here.
Off to the left of the entrance.
And then this was just seating and seating. The bar was up here.
The bar was at the opposite end of the entrance.
There were no seating in this section, and you could come here and you could come out over here. And over here there was also seating, and you could go up a few steps to the office. That's
Okay,
where
office was
that's
off to
where
the
I
right.
was. Otherwise,
On the right hand side. Okay.
and it was up here.
Where was the band?
Okay, it was where you come in the door. They were right over here. Yeah,
Just to the right of the door? Okay. Okay.
pretty well against the wall there. Yes.
Okay, so
yeah.
you're walking in and they're right there facing out toward the crowd, just
They
like
are.
you are when you come in the door. Okay.
They're right here, and then everybody else is
Right.
around.
Okay.
Yes.
Heating and cooling?
Heating, he had the, what's it called? The heat was in the floor. He had a concrete floor. He put that in when he built the garage. Uh, what's that heat called? Oh, it's great. It's fantastic heat. It's in the floor. Can't think of the word for that. It's great. They'd bring trucks in with snow and stuff all over them, and it would melt really good, you know.
Wow.
But he had that heat in the floor. It was still there when we left. Yeah, I mean, well, it would have been.
And still working, yeah, sure. And any air conditioning? Great.
He put the air conditioning in. I guess he put it in before the bar. I don't think he had it when it was garage.
And did you all hire bartender, or were you tending the bar? Or?
I was not. I didn't work any more than I had to on that. My job was in the office.
Sure.
Actually, I helped a little, but I didn't do much. We had several waitresses. Matter of fact, we had some good ones, the kind that could control people and wouldn't make them mad. Takes a talent. I don't have that. But they could get onto them when they were getting out of hand, and they'd just laugh and settle down. It'd be good, you know. There's a talent there. I didn't. I had helped out a little. I have, like during the day when it's really slow, you probably would just get a few beer drinkers. I might help them a little. You had some that were there every day. You knew what they drank. Your regulars.
Right. And you had regulars.
Yeah.
Of the people that were there when the band was playing, what percentage of those people would be under the age of, say, 30?
Oh, gee, I hadn't thought of that. Quite a bit. I don't know if it would be half, but we had people all the way up past retirement age.
So you had a pretty diverse age crowd.
We
right?
did. We had
And
a
male
lot
and
of the
female
older
too?
ones.
Pretty
Yes.
much balanced?
Yes, there were a lot of women with the men. They didn't just come by themselves. They brought their wives or whatever. We had some that didn't, but of course you're always going to have that.
Sure.
Yeah, well, there was. I'd say we had a lot between 30 and 40 also. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty diverse crowd then. Yeah.
They were.
On the outside, did it still look like a garage?
From the outside, you couldn't tell any difference except the garage doors were gone, and he put in the door, regular door. Yeah.
Did he wall off the doors on the sides where the trucks would have come through? Did he wall those off, or did he just have?
It was
like
it
garage
was all
doors?
replaced.
It was all replaced?
Yes, they were gone.
Okay.
And the door that you came in, he put in a little entryway, kinda, where you didn't open the door and open it and come immediately in. There was just a little bit of a
foyer kind of thing there. I have to ask, where did you get the name Cactus Club? Why? Where did that come from?
oasis.
Okay, and so, and he wanted I mean, was there a theme there that this is sort of a desert oasis kind of thing, or is that?
That was his decision. I didn't have anything to do with it, but he thought, you know, it was Oasis Chuckport, and he just kind of connected the cactus and the oasis, and
It's a great theme. I mean, I just love that concept.
it was
wonderful.
his idea.
Yeah, it was good.
He was a very intelligent person. Not that he didn't have any faults, but we all do. But he was very, very honest, a very hard worker, and he trusted people more than I did. People took advantage of him a lot. That didn't have anything to do with the bar, though. because that was strictly cash, of course.
Yes.
And another thing, people, I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know if you're interested in that or not, but we'd turn the light on. It's time to go home.
Right.
And they'd go around and they'd pick up glasses. And a lot of people bought the pitchers. Of course, it's smart, if you're going to drink beer. And we had the several different kinds of alcohol here at the bar, a beer. And he picked him up, and it had a drink. Kind of like now when you get a Coke at a place that you help yourself, there's a drain. So he'd pick up all these pitchers, and he'd pour all this out down this drain. And there were quite a few people that thought that he was pouring that and going to sell it again. No, he was throwing it away.
That's funny.
They were disposing of it,
That's funny.
in that drain. But people have been known to comment on, you're saving that beer, you're going to keep that beer. No.
Oh, there's probably places that do.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
Well, there
Recycling
might
tea
be
and
places
stuff
that
like
do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We didn't.
So you had to keep pretty late hours.
A lot of times.
Yeah. And then, you got a restaurant running too, so you don't have
It's
a lot of
24 hours too.
not a lot of downtime with that, right?
No.
That must have been
And it's
tiresome.
the same
It
time
was.
he's running Wreckers. Is he running the wrecking business too at that same time, or is that?
He had 3 wreckers. He had 3 sizes. He had the big one that could move a tractor and trailer.
Wow.
When they would have problem.
Breakdown.
He had the big one. They called it Big John. And then he had a still nice size one that he could do pretty good vehicles. And then one like you see a lot that just tows cars that have had an accident or he went out on a lot of accidents. And of course when there was ice or something, but he usually used the smaller ones then. But yeah, he had a big one that he used. Yeah, he could haul in anything that was out there on the highway.
It's just amazing
Yeah,
to think of all of the opportunities that he saw.
And all the businesses he was juggling. My goodness,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I want to ask you, and we're going to be respectful of your time. I want to ask you about possibly some of the other places that we've heard about where live music was being played on Route 66, and if you have any memories of them at all. Wayne's Wayside Inn, of course, which was across the street from
Did not have live music.
Did not have live music at all.
No.
Okay. Silver Slipper, just east of Lebanon, where MFA Oil is today.
I'm not familiar with it.
Charlie Cook was the manager there, I think, at some point. Maybe Alfred Zebel.
We have gone to other places ourselves, because Ed liked to dance. And
Tell us places that you went.
oh, gee, we went to Lebanon some. There were places around Lebanon that would have music, and we went to Waynesville some.
You remember the names of any of them? It's been a long time.
I don't think so. We went down to Osage Beach, the lake. Went down that lake. Only problem is if you have any drinks, it's a rough road home. Dangerous, I mean.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and he would drink some and drive. But I can't even think of the name of those places. But we did go out too. Yeah, I miss that dancing because he liked to dance.
That's a good question. Did people dance at all at the Cactus Club?
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
Oh yeah. They danced.
Was the
We
middle-
danced.
Really?
Yeah, I danced.
Yeah.
Well, I danced with Ed, but there were other people that would ask me, and
Yeah.
some of them,
Gotta go
So-
back to the office.
yeah, I gotta go get some change. But I did dance with the customer. It's kind of a goodwill type thing, I guess. And Ed danced with some of the women,
Uh-huh.
probably more than I thought he should, but he did. It was not a problem,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Was there
But
a
he
dance
liked it.
floor?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so
oh,
there
yeah.
was space to dance.
And he
too.
had the stuff that you put on it so it wouldn't, it wasn't sawdust, but I mean, there was stuff you put on the dance floor.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, there was an actual pretty good floor.
okay.
Was that more in the center? And the seating was all around?
Close to the
Close to the band.
close to the band. Well, matter of fact, there were a few tables up. There was the band, there was the floor, and there were a few tables. Then the bar itself.
Okay, all right. So there was a space out there specifically for dancing.
I could not tell you how many feet, but it was. It pretty well served the purpose because no, you never had everybody dancing at the same
At
time.
one time, yeah. But people were probably, there was somebody out there dancing
There
most
were,
of the
there
time.
were, oh, there always were people.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Now Wednesday you didn't have much. Wednesday was slow.
Most of the weekend, right?
Friday and Saturday was busy, and a lot of times he closed early on Friday because you wouldn't have many people. Well, a lot of people had to work Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally he did not stay till 1 o'clock on Friday, Wednesday. No.
Yeah.
Do you by any chance remember a place called BJ Club, Jim Priest and Butch Odell's Club?
I don't think.
That was on Route 66, just outside the Lebanon city limits, I think. These are just names of places that we've come across. We didn't,
Yeah.
you know, we don't know that much about them.
Yeah.
We don't know anything
And
about
I
them. really.
can't think of some of the places that actually had music. We went to some club. Can't think now what it was called. It had music. It wasn't the Elks. It was something like that, you know, that had music.
So your place on Route 66 might have been the hottest spot on Route 66 in this area.
It was within, I don't know how many miles, yeah, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think it was a big deal that Route 66 came through Lebanon?
A big deal, how do you mean?
Important. Do you think it helped that Route 66 came through here?
Well, you think it helped his business after he was already there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, he moved to that location because they had moved the highway away from where he already was.
Yeah, so obviously.
And he had no bar there.
Mm-hmm.
But when he moved to what was 66,
Mm-hmm.
he had the station and the restaurant. Then a year or so later, he opened it. And then the garage was later. He built it later. Yeah, I would say it was an asset for Ed, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the club.
I would say it helped it too.
Mm-hmm. That's sort of a central question for us for this grant is how important that highway was for places that provided live music and entertainment and so forth.
Well, the access was easy for Waynesville, Lebanon, Richland. It was easy to get to. Access was easy. So.
And it brought the truckers to your front door.
Yeah, we had some people you never saw again because they were passing through.
That must have just been fascinating.
But I kind of enjoyed visiting with the different people because I'm like my dad. I like people. I like to visit with people. A little too much, maybe, but.
Do you remember talking to anybody who was from outside the country?
Not there. Don't think so.
Okay, all right. All in
I had to go to Europe to talk to anybody else.
I was just curious to know if anybody had stopped there. Anybody famous?
It's very popular. at the station one night, somewhere along in the morning hours, what was that singer's name that was, they called him Whispering George, or no, what was it? One of those country singers was there, but it didn't have anything to do with the Cactus Club.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, there wasn't anything that had to do with that.
Okay.
We were too small for them.
Mm-hmm. Just wondering if anybody.
If they were there, we didn't know it.
Yeah, and that might have been exactly what they'd have wanted anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Sure. What have I left out?
Advertising.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I wanted to get back to that since you were talking about that before we started recording. We have talked to other people who confirmed what you said earlier about advertising, or not having to advertise through the traditional media, but just using billboards, but mostly word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how effective that was, and any ways that you all advertise the Cactus
It's
Club.
very important because you get unhappy people. It can hurt your business bad, you know.
Mhm.
You have to have happy customers, because when most of yours are coming within word of mouth type thing, you don't want bad events. You know, that's why you have to keep peace. You don't want to be noted for a place that's always got a fight going. No,
Right.
we didn't have. It did happen, yes, but then it was controlled.
Sure.
People drinking and fighting, whatever. I never could understand that. But yes, it is. Ed always said the best advertising you can have is word of mouth.
And that would also hold true, I would think, for the truckers who were who
Oh,
stopped
yeah.
at your place, because they would
Oh,
share.
yeah.
They would say, "Hey, you got to stop at that Cactus Club."
They all had they all had CBs then.
Sure,
Remember
sure.
those days? Well, they may
Absolutely.
still. I don't know. I
Yeah.
had one in my car.
Yeah.
I
And
remember that. Yeah.
oh yeah, they would talk. Course, Ed and I both had radios in our car, and occasionally you would hear them talk about it. You know,
Oh, that
Oh,
must have
wow.
been something. Yeah.
yeah, not an awful lot, but you know, they say I'm going to stop at Oasis and whatever. You know,
That's
yeah.
great.
Well, they
But
really
I
good
tell you
food.
what, if you have somebody that has a bad experience though, and they're going up and down the highway like this, and they spread the word, it can hurt you.
Yes, I'm sure it can. You said you also use billboards.
He had how many billboards did he have between Richland and Springfield? 5 or something.
All on Route 66, I assume.
And he had, mostly it was between there and Richland. He had some toward Waynesville. I don't think he went as many miles in that direction. I remember one time before we were married, I was going to Springfield, and he told me to check the billboards. And I was trying to think. He had, I'd say it was at least 5.
That's a pretty good number.
He had quite
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once after I was there, I had to pay the bills if you know, so there were quite a few.
Was that pretty expensive advertising then on billboards?
Not like it would be now.
Right.
It wasn't that bad, I didn't think.
Mm-hmm. Did he do any newspaper, or you mentioned television?
That was when he was selling international trucks,
Okay.
and it kind of tied in with them. So it cost him, but not like if he did it on his own. And it was basically an international harvester.
Okay.
And
Okay. But not the Oasis Club.
not necessarily, well, it would be mentioned, but
Okay.
but it was more for the automobiles than anything. He didn't sell a lot of international harvester. He did sell tractor, truck. He sold, I think, a couple of them's all, and he sold chassis for bus, you know, and a few things like that. Plus, quite a few pickups and the equivalent of a Scout. It was the little one he liked to drive around in.
That's great.
a little sporty looking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is it an old F?
Kind of like a Jeep type thing,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
Did he
That's funny.
run ads in the newspaper at all?
Seems like he does, but I can't place any. Or like he did. I know it was always in the annuals for all the schools around, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Yeah.
We'd always get hit with them, and he'd always advertise. Newspaper, I think he did some, but not an awful lot.
Did he advertise on the radio for the Oasis Club?
You know, I don't think
The
so.
country stations or anything?
I don't think.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Seems like that would be a likely place.
I can't-
But that just may have been
Yeah.
expensive and not necessary.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you would have had a Springfield station or a St. Louis station.
Yeah.
There probably weren't any. I
What
don't know.
were there any local?
Yeah.
Were there any
There
local
were
radio
stations at Waynesville
Okay.
Waynesville.
Okay.
Oh, I
and Lebanon.
should have asked that too. Did you get soldiers from Fort Leonard Wood, or was that
Not a lot. They usually weren't allowed to do a lot, but there were a few.
okay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 What else have I missed?
Oh gosh.
Anything? Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
I can't think of anything.
Oh, do we want to talk about the eat gas sign? We talked about that a little bit earlier.
That is just. I mean, you know what's funny about that is, you know, I can think 20 years ago if you had a sign like that, they'd say, "Gosh, that's pretty plain. Why would you have something like?" Now that's all you see. You see that all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
It's
Do you?
going back to that.
Yeah.
It is.
You know,
Mhm.
it's really
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
that you don't have to have anything fancy. All you have to say is food. You know,
Mhm.
and that's good because that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Food.
And how people recognize, you know,
At
I
the-
think Gary had written something about someone who traveled across the country and they'd say, "Where did you come from?" And he said, "Oh, you know that sign that says eat gas?" And people
Yeah.
say, "Oh yeah, I know that place."
The
perfect.
truckers would discuss that, and so you know it got spread because
Yeah.
they go everywhere,
That-
and they
it's
would.
genius, though.
You would hear them say they're going to stop and eat. I'm going to stop at the Oasis. And well, where's that? Well, that's the one that says eat. Oh yeah,
That's perfect.
that did
Yeah,
happen
was
some.
great.
Yes.
And he started with a grocery store. Was that right?
He started with a grocery store in 1946 in
Wow.
Michigan.
In Michigan.
Michigan.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
He did,
He was quite an entrepreneur.
Not afraid to work.
and he was just. Well, I guess he was 18 by then because he was drafted in the Army. He turned 18 in January, and he was in the Army in March.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed something that said something about in May or something, but I have his paperwork from the Army, and he was wounded overseas, and he had just gotten over that. Actually, it was his hand. He lost a finger, but it was infected, and he was a long time, and they were just getting ready to send him back in action when it was over.
Uh-huh.
So then he came home. He just served the 2 years, which at that time was, of course, he was making nothing then. Army then didn't pay anything to speak of,
Mm-hmm.
and he was making good money as a mechanic. He was working as a mechanic from the time he was 14 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he went to work when he was 14.
Mm-hmm.
How did he learn? I'm just curious. How did he learn the mechanic trade?
He dropped out of school in the 9th grade because he had a problem with them, and he wanted to learn how. And he did a little racing too before the years were over. So he's big. He's always been into cars. He had a salvage yard when he had at one time too.
Yeah.
That was in Richland. But his things were so much different then than they are now. Because there was the man that they knew that had a garage, and Ed's dad said, "I want you to teach my son mechanic," but he said, "You're not going to pay him." Can you imagine that now? He says he's going to work for you. He's there to learn. you're not to pay him. And Ed said, I guess he just picked up really fast. And it went on for a little while, and the man gave him some money. And he went home, and his dad went back and told the man, gave it back to him, and says, I told you, he's here to learn, you're not to pay him. You can't imagine anybody being like that. Of course, I imagine Ed was ready to accept it. But he had done so well in the learning, and he said it was just a little bit when he named something my son could tell you that he could do faster than the owner could, that they do a lot of at that time.
Yeah.
And he stayed in the garage business until, working in it until they drafted him. Because he was older than I am. You don't have to say that. World War II was going on.
Sure.
And by then, they were looking for people to replace
Yeah.
the ones. It had been going on for 2.5 years when he hit 18. And so he hit 18 and he was in the Army.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.